Let's get you updated now on the latest in the case alleging workers' comp fraud that could have some political ramifications. Good morning. It's Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And you can always call in live and local at 217-629-7970. This case concerns Jenny Thornley, who's already facing criminal charges for theft, fraud, and official misconduct over overtime fraud allegations. That is from when she worked at the Illinois State Police Merit Board. Now, the story gets kind of convoluted rather quickly, so hopefully I can at least give you a bit of the progression of it. So Thornley allegedly was committing overtime fraud for years, totaling tens of thousands of dollars. In one case, I think one year in like 2019, she had like $20,000+ or so of overtime costs that she was paid out. And then as that was being investigated by the Illinois State Police Merit Board, she made allegations against the Merit Board's executive director, which were investigated, and those sexual assault allegations were not founded. And ultimately, they then found overtime fraud. Thornley was eventually fired, and then Thornley filed for workers' compensation benefits and put a couple of different documents into the process to file for workers' comp benefits, saying that she was sexually assaulted, but she didn't put the Merit Board as her employer or as the supervisor. She, in one document, put Governor J.B. Pritzker office as her employer and the governor as her supervisor. And in another document, she put the governor's office, I believe, but then also listed as her supervisor, the governor's general counsel, Ann Spillane. And recently, we've had some documents released from being under seal in a separate lawsuit that deals with a variety of different things. And that documentation showed that Thornley had sent a text message to First Lady M.K. Pritzker. So where it stands right now, Thornley is expected in Sangamon County Court to face those charges of overtime fraud, theft, and official misconduct. So that's a separate criminal case that's currently ongoing. A separate case from the Illinois State Police Merit Board that was filed under seal, but the Attorney General motioned to have that withdrawn, and ultimately the case was withdrawn. And then after that, a few months later, they released the seal, and these documents came out showing a variety of things, including investigations of overtime theft and so on. But what's happening with the alleged workers' comp fraud? Because you can't put on a document information that's not correct and assume that it's correct, because she said that the governor's office was her employer. That wasn't the case. She was the employed by the Illinois State Police Merit Board. So where are the charges for workers' comp fraud in this? And who else could be implicated in this? I reached out to the Illinois Attorney General's office. Was it last week, I believe? Yeah, so it was last week, and I got a response back on late Wednesday. We talked about this yesterday, but the Attorney General's office said that the Attorney General's office moved the overtime case forward by referring allegations of theft and forgery to the State Appellate Prosecutor's Office, and criminal charges are pending against Mrs. Thornley as a result. Now, I want to stop there because there seems to be just a little confusion here, and even the Republican Attorney General candidate Thomas DeVore brought this up on a live stream he hosted last night on social media about why the Appellate Prosecutor's Office is taking this case. So the appellate prosecutor is separate from local state's attorneys. They're there to assist local state's attorneys in certain instances. They're also there to take cases that the local state's attorney cannot prosecute for either conflict or some other kind of perceived conflict of interest. And this is something that apparently happened with the overtime case. So the overtime case, that's the criminal case that's pending. And the local state's attorney did file a motion to have the appellate prosecutor take the case, citing either a conflict of interest or an appearance of impropriety. And in a public filing in the Thornley criminal case, the overtime case, it said that the subject of the related investigation is the alleged victim in an uncharged matter and is also the parent of a child victim in a pending felony case. So you can see the conflict there is if the state's attorney locally is handling a case where Thornley and her child is a victim, it can be a perceived conflict if then they're turning around and prosecuting her for a separate issue altogether. So that's why the appellate prosecutor was brought in on the overtime case. This is the overtime case. Now, the work comp case is a totally separate issue, and state statute actually says that the Fraud and Insurance Noncompliance Unit shall report violations to the Special Prosecutor's Bureau of the Criminal Division of the Office of Attorney General or the state's attorney of the county in which the offense allegedly occurred, either of whom has the authority to prosecute violations under this section. So I asked, again, the Attorney General's office kind of for, a status of sorts of what's going on with this particular workers' comp fraud case. And they again said that just as we referred the alleged theft and forgery allegations, we have referred allegations that Ms. Thornley committed workers' compensation fraud to the appellate prosecutor's office. Our understanding is that the matter is under review by that office. So still trying to get a little bit more clarity on exactly the process of the appellate prosecutor's office getting this separate overtime case. Now, the state's attorney, they've already spelled out in filings why they can't handle a prosecution against Thornley in the overtime case. But the work comp case is different because the work comp statute apparently gives the attorney general the ability to actually prosecute this case. So there's still that question. Why the attorney general's not taking this case and prosecuting it? Why did they refer it to either the state's attorney, which ultimately is going to the appellate prosecutor for the possible alleged conflict of interest? So here's Tom DeVore when I talked to him yesterday about this, and he said that he's speculating. There's some questions of if this case is thoroughly investigated and prosecuted, it could open a pretty substantial can of worms. Here's Tom DeVore.
Because if the attorney general does their job and prosecutes this claim against Jenny Thornley at a minimum, it's going to open up Pandora's box of the governor's office at the highest levels participating in this.
And DeVore also said that if Pritzker's office assisted in alleged fraud, then they should be held accountable. Again, Tom DeVore.
To intentionally assist, abet, solicit, or conspire with any person, company, or other entity to commit this type of fraud. That in and of itself is a crime under the Workmen's Comp Act.
So Attorney General Kwame Raoul and Governor J.B. Pritzker actually have a media availability in Chicago this morning later on, I think about 10:30ish. They're going to be talking about opioid settlement money, but I'm interested to see if any members of the Chicago media are going to ask about this case. Why did the Attorney General not prosecute the workers' comp fraud allegations? And what did the governor's office know about it? So I think those are some pretty important questions that need to be asked. I have reached out to a couple of members of the Chicago press corps to see if they could possibly pose those questions. Since I can't get up there, I don't have a private jet or anything. So we're here in Springfield, the state capital. It is Springfield's Morning News. Hopefully that, as we shared with a caller, elucidates this case for you. And the definition of elucidate, make something clear and explain. So hopefully I did that for you this morning. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and